Would like to move the minutes? All those in favor? Contrary, carried. Next meeting, October the 19th, 4 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is the Richmond Animal Shelter Public Art Concept Proposal. And we have one person in the audience, and did you want to speak to it?
Not particularly, no. I'm in favor.
Yeah, you're just here to see it go through, okay?
I move the recommendation.
Second.
Is there any discussion on it?
Never mind.
I really like the design
I
because
do
it's got
too.
all the animals on the fence. It looks like it's, the fence is a work of art rather than a fence, so I think it's a
Yep.
great idea. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried.
Sorry, I had a question.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot there's people on the screen. Hey, Michael. And I don't know how they can get you speaking. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Through the chair to staff, my question was about the description for the material. It was on page 22. It talks about stainless steel, alu panels, and then it mentions small plexiglass pieces that are seems like very specific shapes that would kind of fill in different spots. I love the idea. I love stained glass. I love color coming through when the light shines there. But I also know over time, like plexiglass against metal, it wears and the rattling of the anyway. Would those be replaceable at a later date? Would it be okay if they're missing? Would they be a chewing hazard for a dog? Things like that. I have.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, all the design considerations as well as the material that is going to be used for this project will be going through a detailed design process. So all of those questions will be considered during the design process.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else? I don't see any more hands up. Okay, we've already voted on it, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Community Services Summer Program Update. Staff recommendation, the staff report titled Community Services Summer Program be received for information.
Move the recommendation.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, Bill?
Yeah, I just a quick question. How did these, I didn't see any 2019 results. Are we getting on our way to sort of, I'm very impressed with the results that we've got, but how were we in comparison to when we did have a full house?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor McNulty, we're about 2/3 of the way, so about 65% of the way to our 2019 participation levels.
Okay, so next year you put in for the full amount of money and we'll get there for the other 1/3?
Absolutely, that is what we are hoping.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Linda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions. It's a very positive report. Great to see the increase in registrations and great to see so many volunteers back participating in the community again. And just thanks to them, because without them, our programs wouldn't run as smoothly as they do. So great report. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Michael?
Thanks. Through the chair, just my one question here was, in the report, there was no section on like needs or requests. I know there was testimonials for great programming that was offered and that people took full advantage of. But was there a high call for something that we don't have or don't have enough of, or will that come in a later report?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we had very positive responses to all of our offerings this summer. One area that we are looking to add more of, similar to what we did in pre-pandemic years, are single visit options for summer camps, single day options for summer camps. So given the changing landscape with more families or parents working from home, we feel that might be another attractive option for some families.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got a question. It's up from last year, but it's still only 65% of pre-COVID. What do we see happening considering that this COVID may be coming in waves? Are we going to be stuck at 65% for a while, or does the staff think it's going to go back up?
To the chair, our hopes are that we will come back up and return to pre-pandemic levels, barring any unforeseen circumstances, of course.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Next item, instructor lifeguard recruitment. That a subsidy program for lifeguard trainings courses be developed on a trial basis as outlined in the staff report. That $33,750 be allocated from the council contingency account for the lifeguard subsidy program as outlined in the staff report. Would somebody like to move the motion?
Move the recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. I think Alexis suggested this at one time, and I'm extremely in favor of it. And I think it's important that we offer these kinds of things. When I looked over the summer and what happened in other communities, neighboring communities, and where they couldn't get lifeguards and they had to close their pools, and for a number of reasons. One, obviously, there's an economic reason, but more importantly, the human resource reason, not having that and people not having the opportunity. So I think whatever we can do to enhance our, we'll call it a pool of lifeguards, obviously it's fairly costly. I don't see I'd love to just see an outline of what these people have to go through in order to get their certification. I assume it's CPR, it's St. John's, it's et cetera, and be able to swim at, what, bronze medallion or whatever, at least I can remember in my days anyhow. But it would be good to see, because I think that would be good PR, to share that with people, that, you know, the guy or the gal that's standing on the deck, he is quote unquote qualified to handle any emergency situation that should occur, et cetera, everything from, let's say, the defibrillator to such and such. So anyhow, I'm extremely supportive of this. I think it's a small amount of money when I think it's only 15 people, but I'd like to, we'll call it a pilot project. If this is successful, I'd like to see us invest a little bit more in it. I don't know what the need of our lifeguards are. I don't know how many we've got and what have you, but I hope we would encourage people to come into this area and serve the people that we need, because from my perspective, every child has to learn how to swim. I think that's a must. That goes back to 1948, Harold, with the Kiwanis. They came out and said, and somebody had a backyard pool of 20 meters at the most, and that's where swimming lessons started in Richmond. So I'm behind this 100%. Good work.
Okay, Alexa.
Thank you. I just have a couple comments and then just a question for staff about this. So thank you so much for coming forward with this. I'm really excited about this because I think it's a really good opportunity for us to fill our lifeguarding component that we need to just be able to offer the programs. We sort of run into that double-edged sword of we don't have enough lifeguards and instructors, so then we don't have kids learning how to swim, and then we don't have enough lifeguards and not enough kids learn to swim. I believe that swimming is a life activity that you just need to have and need to be able to do, and it's important to me that all our kids in Richmond learn to swim. And so starting by making sure. Sorry?
Yeah, okay, fine.
And then just making sure that we have enough lifeguards, I think, is an important thing. And being able to support people who otherwise couldn't afford to be able to get those courses, I think is really important as well, because we have shifts from 6 to 11. If someone is able to get the support that they need, if they're coming from a lower income family, they're able to get the support they need. This is a big hand up, I think, for a lot of people, potentially, because the lifeguarding is a well-paid position, and the hours are such that you can work them around something else. If you're trying to go to school at the same time, if you're trying to do something else. My question for staff is, how are we going to make sure we're sharing with groups like Touchstone, CHIMO, Women's Resource Center about the opportunity for this? Because I think those are particular groups that will be of keen interest in this program to maybe get some kids an opportunity to, or some other person who they're held back because of financial barriers to take advantage of this? Do we have a system to make sure everyone gets a hold of this information?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, through our recreation fee subsidy program, we're in contact with a lot of some of those social service agencies that you mentioned, and we'll use those same networks within this program to get the word out and know that funding's available for this program.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Carol?
Thank you very much for this motion. I'm really pleased to, well, I can't, I'll support it when it comes to council because I'm not on the committee. You know, when I was a single mom and my daughter wanted to take lifeguard training, it cost me a small fortune to get that training, and it was quite prohibited at the time. And I'm pleased to see that everyone that wants to be a lifeguard can be a lifeguard. It looks great on your resume, and often they'll continue, as Councillor Liu pointed out, well into their college years. I just have one question though. Like, one of the other things that stops people from being lifeguards is getting recertified. Is there any option to look at that as well?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, within our existing collective agreement, we do offer staff a discount on their recertification. So they get a 25% discount. That's actually right into our collective agreement. And that's through our any of the courses that they need to do to recertify to be a lifeguard.
Okay, well, good for now. Maybe we could look at something a little bit further down the road. That's I suppose a negotiation. Thank you.
Jack?
Yes. I'm supportive of the program, and I just have a few questions. Number one, so we are going to offer this program to 15 individuals, and staff mentioned that they will be considered for instructor lifeguard positions in the future. So, I mean, in reality, how many positions do we have to offer? I mean, do we have 15 positions for all these people, theoretically?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, we typically operate with about a contingent of about 300 lifeguards to operate all of our swimming pools. Right now, we've got about 200 lifeguards, give or take. So we've got about 25 that are in an onboarding process right now. So we're still short of lifeguards, and we're not able to offer like full swimming lessons complement right now. And so we certainly have the capacity to have all of those. If we had 15 spots right now, we could hire all of them on the spot.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that's good to know. My second question is related to the other new positions being suggested. Page 34 mentioned that the first position is a swimming instructor. So assuming that we hire this person, where will he or she be doing the instruction? Would the person be assigned to one particular place or just rotating among different facilities?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, those instructors would be in all of our swimming pools, and they would be offering and providing swimming instruction right alongside our regular instructor lifeguards. And in some cases, these are staff that or individuals that aren't really interested in being a lifeguard, but maybe they want to teach kids how to swim because they're passionate about that. And so it's an opportunity for them to be able to do that.
I see. Then further questions, staff also mentioned that these positions would be accommodated within existing budget allocations. So are you talking about this year, or are you talking about further down the road that we do not have we don't have additional financial impact further down the road?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Al, yeah, they're accommodated within our existing budget because we're really, in effect, we have that budget allocated for swimming instruction already. And so now we create some new positions that are swimming instructors only, and we could use that funding that we already have in our existing budgets.
But for this year or further down the road?
Further, both this year
good.
and further down the road.
Very good. Thanks for the clarification.
Michael?
Thank you. Actually, just to further Councillor Al's question area there. So for the new positions, so there'll be swimming instructors, aquatic attendants, And then in addition, the instructor lifeguard position. Could you just give could staff provide a kind of a ballpark? What would we expect to build out those numbers to? Like, what's the ratio of those three positions?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf. Well, we haven't hired or recruited these new positions yet, so we're not entirely sure what the take-up will be. I have talked to some colleagues in other municipalities who have, for instance, West Van has operated a new position or developed a new position as an instructor only, as well as Surrey has. And they're getting, about 15 to 20 people in that position. But what they're reporting is that those staff are very excited about teaching swimming lessons. They're passionate about it, and it's working well for them right now.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Just a further comment then. I really support the initiatives that are ongoing, as well as the fee subsidy program. I think it's not going to be a pilot. I think it's going to be kind of a necessity going forward. And I myself was like a slide attendant at one time, where my sister went through all the courses in Richmond pools and for the lifeguard training. But I think if there were the two streams back then, she might have, because of cost and going the full distance in training, she would have probably gone to the teaching route. So that's great that initiative is available. Thanks.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure of all your answers. It doesn't come too clearly, but I do have one question. You may have answered this. Do we have part-time lifeguards? I was a part-time lifeguard half a century ago, and when I was going to university, and I took all the training and was a lifeguard three nights a week at the Memorial Pool in Vancouver, just in the evening. So do we do that, or do they have to be full-time?
The majority of our lifeguards are auxiliary or part-time lifeguards. That's the majority of them.
They are part-time, most of them.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wondered. Okay, thanks very much. Great report. And I guess that's all the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Okay, that leads to the next one, the Steveston National Historic Site, Fisheries Museum of the Pacific. 3 recommendations, and this is my report, that Council approve the naming of the Britannia Shipyard National Historic Site and related historic buildings on waterfront as the Fisheries Museum of the Pacific, and applications be made to federal and provincial governments for major funding to complete the site as recommended in the report Steveston National Historic Site, Fisheries Museum of the Pacific, dated September 27, 22. 2, that Council approve Part 2 of the report in principle, pending summation of public input and further staff input, so funding applications can be made immediately. 3, that trees, shrubs, and plants at Britannia Shipyard that are not native to BC be removed and replaced with species native to the Steveston area. Species native to other parts of Richmond can remain, but the trail to Trites Road should also be planted with local native species. And 4, that trees, shrubs, and plants native to our native local marine habitat be planted along Terra Nova Slough, combined with an estuarium, and First Nations Environmental Interpretation Center at Britannia Shipyard. Terra Nova Slough can provide educational, environmental, and habitat compensation benefits, as well as habitat for chum, salmon, fry. And I would so move.
Second.
Just to explain what I'm hoping to do here, I made a referral 10 years ago and it disappeared. I went to call Britannia. It was almost identical to this, but not well researched. I spent a month researching this to look everything up. And I was after naming it the Maritime Museum of the Pacific. North Vancouver had called themselves the Maritime Museum of the Pacific, and they got $10 million out of the federal government, and then they never constructed, and they kept the $10 million. So I thought it's something that we could do to call ours the Maritime Museum. However, after going to Lunenburg with Councillor Au and Councillor Barnes, and seeing Lunenburg and Pictou, Nova Scotia, and places like that, I thought it would be a better comparison with Lunenburg. Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, is a National Historic Site, and that's its secondary name. Its first name is it's a World Historic Site. So its first is a World Historic Site, a National Historic Site, and is the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic. So I thought that we've got Britannia is a National Historic Site, And if we named it the Fisheries Museum of the Pacific, it would be a National Historic Site and Fisheries Museum of the Pacific. So that would encompass a lot more than just being the National Historic Site, but that would remain. The second part is a combination of all the referrals that half a dozen of us have made over the last 10 years. And really all I've done is put together what we referred, so you got it all in one package, and you don't have to read 10 or 15 different reports to council over the years, and quite often it doesn't get in the minutes what we referred it for. And I've asked for approval in principle. The last time we dealt with it was, I think it was 2018, when we were supposed to have, we approved it in principle then, and we were supposed to have public input, and it's not coming back till November. If we wait till November, we're already missing out on millions of dollars in federal funds and provincial funds in terms of the rehabilitation funds after COVID. And I think we need to adopt it in principle. We can change it as we go along, but we need to start applying for that money now. And third and fourth, I've referred the trees, I don't know how many times, and I even wrote a booklet on the trees about 30 years ago, and that was adopted for Gary Point. At Gary Point, they planted Gary oak instead of planted English oak instead of Gary oak. And most recently at Britannia, they dug up all the Pacific crabapple trees and replanted it with crabapple trees from Russia, which, hey, we're at war with Russia right now.
Might have been that.
So we got crabapple trees from Russia and hawthorn trees from the UK, replacing the native species. So that's the reason I'd like to see number 1, 3, 4 adopted, and number 2 is approval in principle, and that's what I've so moved. Okay, any questions or discussion? I've got a couple, Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And well, first of all, thank you for all the work that you've done. As you said, you spent a considerable amount of time on it, and it shows with all the research that you've put before us today. So thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions, and perhaps, you touched on it. And so perhaps as the mover and as the writer of the report, you could clarify something for me. So in number 1, so when you say that council approved the naming, are you saying to rename it then? So it would not be Britannia Heritage Shipyard National Historic Site anymore? Or would it be the Fisheries Museum of the Pacific at Britannia Shipyard National Heritage Site? I'm just a bit confused on that.
It would be your second statement. It would be a Fisheries Museum of the Pacific at the Britannia National Historic Site. That's the way they do it at Lunenburg.
Okay, so perhaps the number 1 could reflect that, because I found it a bit confusing, because I thought, well, what happens, as you mentioned, Britannia is already a National Historic Site. What happens to that? If we change the name and everything like that. Okay. So
I would accept that as a friendly amendment. Be Ann Waterfront as the Fisheries Museum of the Pacific at the Britannia Shipyard National Historic Site. We'll just make that a friendly.
That's great. That makes it a lot more clear for me anyway. So thank you for that.
Right.
And well, I can support number 3 and 4, no problem. Number 2, well, there's a lot of recommendations in there, as you've said, many of them have come to committee and have been referred. And, I think it gives a good outline of a plan for the future. And, when you say pending, summation of public input and further staff input, so I guess, from that, we couldn't do everything at once. So there would be priorities identified and funding identified. Is that what you envisioned?
Yeah, the idea there was that there's some conflicting ideas I've got in there. Some different ones is not firm. It's just let's get on with the job and figure these things out. And I should mention, I asked Bud Sakamoto for input on it, and he didn't get it to me in time before I wrote the report. And so I'd like to actually, in my recommendation here, add the Sakamoto document as an appendix to part 2. He is recommending that the upper floor of the Phoenix net loft only go about 2/3 of the way across, and that an open area be left so you can put fishing boats inside the building, and the mast could stick up quite high into the air. I suggest that could happen at the Phoenix seine loft, But either way is fine with me, and so I'd like to suggest that would be an addendum to the report as well.
And
And,
that's all the questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll just listen to the discussion.
okay, and also I got a letter as well, I should have mentioned this earlier, there's a memo from former Councillor Linda Barnes urging support in principle of the report and recommendations, Maritime Museum of the Pacific. It's a blueprint for moving these projects and vision forward. Okay, Bill.
Okay. Oh, am I up next?
Yeah, Bill.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to have seconded Harold, and I want to thank the consultant for all his work, and I'd like to know what the price was that we employed this consultant to do it. I haven't seen a report like this in a long time, especially a historical one, so congratulations, Harold, and thank you very much. And great to see some of the stuff. I'm glad Councillor McPhail brought out the first part. I support that. That's exactly what we should be doing on it. And obviously we'll have to look for various funding. We also have a number of referrals with other parts of Richmond or other parts of Steveston being national historic sites. And I'm wondering if we can get an update on those just to know where we are, because I think many of them have been lost over the years, and apply for the national historic significance and on it. And there was one to look at applying to the World Body for it as well, and I'm not sure where that stands, but it is in the archives here somewhere. Number two, I'm happy with what I see, number two, but page 44, I'd like us to flush out a little bit more. To me, I think we need, with due respect, I think it's great what we got, but I think we've got to go grandiose. I think we got to go bigger and look at it in terms of bigger. If we're going to, for those of us, and I wasn't at Lunenburg, but I've been to a number of other places throughout the world, and especially in Japan, etc. When you go to a site like a Britannia Shipyard, it's huge. It's, whether you're walking down a path or you're going down a row of trees or you're going into a gardens, each one of those within their own is significant, okay? You have historical sites within historical sites. And I think you've outlined very well, don't get me wrong, you outlined very well. But I think down the road, we look to embellish page 44 on it, because there is so much history to be told. And not only from the arts point of view, but the cultural point of view and the historical significance as well. I think many people forget that at one time Steveston was the only other port and opportunity to get into the province of British Columbia over the years. I don't think many people know that. It wasn't just Victoria when they came over, and then they come over by ferry. Steveston was also a significant, I believe the building is still there at the foot of number 1 road. So anyhow, I think it's a step in the right direction. The word is approved in principle. I think I'll accept that, but I think we can move it along. And maybe we'll make other recommendations and resolutions as we flush this out, because I think we need to embellish it quite a bit more. Okay, that's all I got for now.
Okay, if I could just comment before Michael comes on, I think that's exactly what Bud Sakamoto was concerned about. Okay. His report basically is an amendment to page 44.
Yeah, we just got this, so I haven't read it.
Yeah, he's got an excellent description of the Chinese, First Nations, Japanese, and Europeans and their contribution. And I think it's so well worded. There may be a couple of words staff would want to change, but a lot of that's what we would use for applying for funding. I think it's an excellent description.
Thank Bud for his contribution.
And then, of course, he has some drawings of the building, what it might look like. He suggests, because we're, believe it or not, short of space, that instead of having a restaurant in the building, that we'd have a special a cafe, an office, and a shower for the boaters along the floating dock out in front, that we would not be able to find enough space to put everything inside. So I thought those were pretty good ideas to add to the report. So that's why I'm adding that as an appendix to part 2, particularly to page 44.
Okay, great, thank
Okay,
you.
Michael.
Thank you. Just a few points. I guess question first to Councillor Steves. On page 45, it talks about the estuarium, and that's at the east end of Scotch Pond. So I guess my couple questions about it. I know I haven't been to many of the similar sites that you have, but one that I have been to is Ucluelet Aquarium, which is kind of like an estuarium. They collect specimens from the water right outside and then keep them in there for a short term and then return them and catch fresh ones. So people who work there are really well in touch with what species are in the waters nearby, and they can teach that. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's on your radar, that one, because it's really connected to the water. And then for facilities, I know the Richmond School District built at the Steveston London Secondary School that little hut in the center at the parking lot there that was meant to be a salmon hatchery rearing site. Never was used for that, but maybe that kind of a building facility could also be at the estuarium site. And then my other question about that whole project is if there's yet a regime on addressing the silt sediment buildup issue, so around dredging that on maybe a regular basis, and maybe getting to this stage of having estuarium there will happen. But I just know I've been hearing from a number of users or Hopewell Park users of that issue in the area. And then I appreciate in the report on page 74, the First Nations plant uses list. I'm sure that probably came from your guide or pamphlet or booklet that you made. But yeah, great a concise list of some excellent species. I've been a landscape kind of designer and native plant planter and community organizer. So yeah, I appreciate the structure that you and care you put into the choices of plants and where. And then I also just like if staff would comment on this. I don't know if they were planning to comment on this before we vote, or if they've read the Sacramento guidelines that just came in and have a comment on that. So that's all. Thanks.
I think about a staff comment, Todd or Marie or Elizabeth.
Through the chair to Councillor Steves, I would ask Todd to respond specifically on the planting, and Marie perhaps to give a very high level overview of some of the outstanding referrals. And I agree, I think this is an excellent overview and pulls those referrals together. And I think reminding us to go away and come back with a comprehensive report on the referrals as you pulled them all together. But I would like to ask Todd and Marie to comment specifically on a couple of those items.
So through the chair to committee and Councillor Wolf on your questions, we have not had a chance to review the latest document that Councillor Steves brought forward. But speaking to the planting at Britannia Shipyard specifically, we have been working on putting together a master plan for that site, and we're planning to do that this winter, ultimately, realistically, probably Q1 of 2023 to come back with some direction on that. And then regarding the Terra Nova slough planting, we do have a referral specifically on the slough itself. That's where we had some conversation around dike works, compensation planting, various funding initiatives. And with that one, we've been collaborating with engineering, kind of looking at when the dike works are planned or scheduled next. That's tentatively planning to start in 2025 based on funding, and then construction 2027. So this theoretically could happen as part of that as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just a further answer to Michael. As Linda Barnes mentions in her comment, basically this is a blueprint. But in terms of my feelings on the plantings, we've got to say firmly we're going to have native plantings. Too many times, whenever you get a landscaper in, they can't find the trees, so they substitute. And it's time we stop substituting and do the planting we've agreed to already. It's nothing new. We've agreed, except the Terra Nova ones, we haven't referred that one to have native plantings there. But we did agree 100%, twice at least, to have native plantings at Britannia Shipyard. And the first time we got them, the second time they were all pulled out and non-native species were planted. So it's extremely important that we get it done right. Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion?
Question of someone, well, you moved it, I seconded it.
I
Question.
think Marie was going to comment. I think.
Oh, Marie?
Yes, I'm happy to comment if you'd still like me to. So, yeah, we did have a chance to review the report, and I think much of what's in there is captured in various reports and plans that we've looked at over the years. And I think advancing the planning work on the Phoenix Netloft, the Japanese duplex, and the First Nations bunkhouse in the months ahead will help to advance some of the ideas contained in the report as well.
Okay, thanks very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay, that ends our agenda for the manager's report.
Yeah, good evening. I just wanted to advise that, as you're likely aware, Watermania has been closed for its annual shutdown since September the 6th, and it's going to reopen this coming Monday, October the 3rd. So we've had lots of, routine, regular maintenance performed, like tiling, painting, carpentry, etc. But we also did some big work this year, replaced the splash pool filtration and a large section of the pool deck. And as it's going to be reopening Monday, we're going to have some communication with the public, including our social media, in our facilities, and on our websites.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you, Chair and Committee. I'd like to provide a brief update on the number 3 Road Dog Park. This past Saturday, September 24th, we had a naming event at Dogs Off-Leash Park at the south end of number 3 Road along the dike. During this event, Mayor and Council unveiled and announced the new official name for this park as the number 3 Road Dog Park. The event took place on a beautiful morning when many members of our community, including dog park users and our barking furry friends, came out and celebrated with our mayors and councils. In addition to the recent dike and park upgrades, there is an ongoing public engagement exercise on tree planting for this park, including an on-site drop-in information session approximately 2 weeks ago on September 10th, as well as a Let's Talk Richmond survey currently in progress until this Sunday, October 2nd. Upon the conclusion of this public engagement process, staff will review results to determine next steps, such as organizing a volunteer tree planting event with the community later this fall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, who's next?
Hello, it's Kamyar here through the chair and to the committee. I wanted to do a brief report on Culture Days for you. Culture Days weekend itself, many of you were there. It was a great success. Over the weekend, we've had 1,500 plus people enjoying the Library Cultural Center and the plaza. Lots of events, lots of great energy and positivity from the community and all the groups that participated. Of course, Culture Days goes on till October 16th. And I won't tell you about the almost 50 activities that are happening throughout Richmond, but I did want to highlight a few of them to give you a breadth, depth, and diversity of incredible energy and talent that we have in the community. We have a lot of seniors activities. The Miniru Swinging and Rocking Dancers are at the Miniru Place Activity Center. We have a seniors wellness activity at the Branscombe House, as well as dances, meditation. Arts BC is holding an arts market at Miniru Plaza, hosting 20 local groups, if not more. Richmond Arts Coalition is having a nature art exhibition at Branscombe House. There's open rehearsals with Richmond Delta Youth Orchestra, Richmond Singers, Richmond Youth Honor Choir. There's a pop songwriting workshop with Richmond Music School. WS Immigrant and Multicultural Services Society are putting on a creative festival of multiculturalism. There's Chinese painting, there's Islamic art, and there's yoga as well. If you want to see all of them, you can go to the culturedays.ca website, but we're quite proud of the community and all the activities that they're doing in Richmond between now and October 16th.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Managers updates.
Yep.
Michael?
Thanks. Just gratitude for the last two speakers who highlighted events that I did participate in. The Bark Park was great, fun, and Culture Days, so much more to come. So that's great. The question or the item I wanted to just briefly bring up, which I think is appropriate for this committee at this time, especially because we just approved the item on summer programs and kind of the service update review and such. I've heard from community associations, like the one I'm the liaison for in Hamilton, or when I was for the one in East Richmond, that they would like kind of like an end of summer or annual update on park projects or like, so they know when their things are coming in the next year, as opposed to allocating so much of their time to discuss, oh, well, what should we be asking the city for? A dog park or signage, or if they knew that like their area coordinator would present like here's the 5-year plan for your community. You know what's coming next year. You can see it in the list. And so is there something like that? Because some of the members of the community association say that there isn't. And so staff comment on that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we do certainly report back to the associations on initiatives as they are reported out on, for example, the wellness strategy, the recreation and sports strategy. Those were both taken back to the association specifically. We do meet regularly through Richmond communities, and we have a liaison to that group. So maybe what we can do is take this item back to that group and flush it out and see what it is that would meet their needs, and work with them as well. Another way that we might have an opportunity to flush this out is this Saturday. We have our wellness checks program that's going on, where there'll be representatives from all of the associations. This would be another opportunity for us to flush it out and see what it is that we could do to improve those communications or meet these needs that you're highlighting.
Great. I appreciate that. I think if you could do that at the wellness check, I think that'd be fantastic. But the other reason, specifically for Hamilton East Richmond, is on our council's open referrals, the package we received June of this year. One of the items is Sports Council Facility Task Force for Hamilton and East Richmond recreational facilities. And it's to be done by the end of this year, Q4. Yet the community association hasn't, they're not part of it. I think they're looking to either be part of if there's a steering committee, if there's discussions on where the Hamilton amenity funding could go. I think if there was a way to bring all these together and show the 5-year likelihood plan that can still change, it would be better for all these groups that are kind of working separately. So.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we'll take that under advisement, and we are aware of that referral that's still outstanding, and the staff will be going back to work with the Hamilton Community Association to consult on that specific referral as well. But we'll take that under advisement and explore it further.
Okay, anything further from staff? Any further questions from council committee?
Move adjournment.
All those in favor? Contrary carried. We have a very short in-camera meeting.